नमस्कार। अभी तो यहाँ बहुत सारे जानकार लोग बैठे हैं। मैं बहुत और मैं मॉडर्न आर्किटेक्चर पे तो ज़्यादा बोल ही पाऊँगी। प्रेजेंटेशन में मैंने उसके विजुअल्स नहीं रखे हैं जैसा शशिधर जी एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे थे। तो मैं जो बात करूँगी वो है भोपाल का लैंडस्केप एंड आर्किटेक्चर, भोपाल के एंटीसीडेंट्स क्या हम लेके आए थे। और मैं ये बताना चाहूँगी कि मॉडर्न भोपाल में वो सब कहीं पीछे छूट गया। मतलब वो एक कहानी अलग रह गई और नई भोपाल की अलग कहानी शुरू हुई। तो मैं जो भोपाल के आर्किटेक्चरल एंड लैंडस्केप प्लानिंग एक तरीके से एंटीसीडेंट्स की बात करूँगी कि क्या हमें मिला था और उसको कहाँ छोड़ के हम नई राह पे निकल गए। तो जैसा हम लोग हमेशा बोलते हैं या मैं खासकर बोलती हूँ, भोपाल एक ऐसा शहर है जो लैंडस्केप प्लानिंग से ही शुरू हुआ है। यहाँ नेचुरल रिवर्स हैं, नेचुरल हिल्स हैं, बट उसको ह्यूमन क्रिएशन एंड ह्यूमन टेक्नोलॉजी से बड़ी बड़ी लेक्स में कन्वर्ट किया। तो द स्टोरी स्टार्ट्स इन 1010 AD when Raja Bhoj made this dam, which you can see a small dam between the two hills, and river Kolans was made to move between these two hills, and the result was the Bada Talab. तो ये 1010 AD का नक्शा है, where you can see all the existing hills, river Kolans, and the newly generated water body, that is Bada Talab. And it was part of a bigger hydraulic system. It was connected to a Sagar Tal near Bhojpur, Bhimbetka, and the Bhimbetka, the archaeological findings do tell us the signs of a huge water body on their rocky surfaces. So next. So the landscape antecedents of Bhopal was the hills, which is a big hill range of hills, which includes Bhimbetka, which includes the hills in Kathotia, which includes the hills inside Bhopal, and which also includes the prehistoric civilization. It has the signs of prehistoric civilization, as you know in Bhimbetka. Next. Also, it has Bhojpur and Ashapuri, almost in early 11th century. So, these are the antecedents of Bhopal when the city was created. Next. Then came the time of Dost Muhammad Khan. Like the urban Bhopal that we see today was a creation of the Nawabi period. So there came those. I will not go into all the stories because all of you are, you know about the history of Bhopal. So Dost Muhammad Khan came to Jagdishpur, renamed it Islamnagar, and built a fortress over there on the banks of river Patra, which originates in Bhopal. And he made this beautiful fortress palace called Islamnagar, which is still there. It has beautiful palatial complexes. It has in Bhopal, that is the only place where you have signs of Mughal garden. Like you have all those chini khanas, you have the chadars, you have fawwaras working with gravitation force. So you have all the elements of Mughal garden in Islamnagar, and you have a beautiful hammam and the system of pulling up water from the Patra river by Persian Wheel complex. So it has all these, what you see on the left hand side is the canals and the chini khanas, which are the jharokas on top of which the water curtain falls, and the chini khanas would hold gold and silver vessels or lamps, gold and silver vessels during the day and lamps in the night to give a very shimmering type of effect and diffuse lighting to the entire area. Next. Then comes the mid 18th century when the Chota Talab was created. You see on the mouth of the upper lake across the dam, the Chota Talab was created, and that became the second water body of Bhopal. And then followed the lake making activity, then 3 more water bodies were created. All these are man-made. So I would say the landscape planning and the city went hand in hand, side by side. The city and landscape were entwined together because all these are man-made. Next. So this is Bhopal of 1919 AD, like you have Bada Talab, Chota Talab. Then where I have written 7 is the 3 cascading lakes. One lake would get filled, overflow into second, and it will overflow into the third, and the third will irrigate the Barabag, which is in the series, the green portion you see. And the Barabag itself has about 4 step wells which are still full of water. One of the step wells is used by the Nagar Nigam to fill tankers, and they give a constant supply of water all over Bhopal. So the area is full of water, and then it goes and feeds the Ghora Nakka's Nala. It is a river, we have made it a Nala. So the entire area becomes the catchment of Ghora Nakka's. And this entire drainage network was understood by the planners, the city planners during the Nawabi era, and you can see lot of aqueducts and lot of underground systems which would take the water to these 3 cascading lakes. So the city of Bhopal, the urban area, had 5 water bodies, which made the city very pleasant, because otherwise the climate is hot dry. With the presence of these lakes and the wind flows which would make the air cool, made the city very pleasant. This pleasantness of the climate reflected itself in architecture, because if the climate is pleasant, so in Bhopal the winter is also called Gulabi Sardi, when the cheeks go pink, and that's it. It is not very cold. So, and the summer is nowadays it is different, but in the historic city of Bhopal, it is still quite pleasant, because we made a complete study of air flows, how the heat flows from one place to another, how it is impacted by the water bodies. We made actual measurements, and we have proved that the air flows through the water body has been given a lot of importance by the placement of the buildings, so that the buildings remain very cool and comfortable. So this pleasantness of climate, which was an outcome of landscape planning, is reflected and continued in the building design. Of course, Bhopal becomes unique also because it has a continuous 100-year rule of Begums, feminine rule. That means the femininity, the feminine aspects also got reflected in the city planning, because the women have a different way of looking at things. They are more nurturing, they are more peaceful. I won't mind saying that, because They in the family also they keep everyone together and run the house. So the women, the feminine aspect has been reflected in the building design and the city planning of Bhopal. Next. So now this is the present built up scene of Bhopal, where you can see these two lakes and the three lakes, and the built up massing, and the wind direction is from southwest, and how the wind direction has been exploited by the building design. Next. Of course, every city has a skyline, and skyline becomes the identity. Bhopal also had the identity of the minarets of the mosque, but somehow this identity is totally lost now. But conscious effort should have been done to retain this identity. The identity has been lost because of it has been lost to boxes only. All you see is boxes now, and you don't see the sensitive handling of built massing in the historic Bhopal. So this is the Iqbal Maidan area, which of course this is a study which was conducted to showcase how the courtyards and the little alleys have an effect on creating a microclimate. You have the Babe Sikandari gate, through which the lake, the winds from the lake, they enter through small apertures, and when hot air enters through small apertures, it becomes cool, and then it goes into these courtyards, and then these the bigger courts, Iqbal Maidan and the Sadar Manzil court, and then it goes and enters into smaller courtyards. So you will find all the windows and doors are opening into the smaller courtyards. Outside there are very little openings, because the air is conditioned. There is passive cooling techniques employed, and then it goes and feeds into the room. So still the rooms are much more comfortable in hot climate in summers than modern buildings of say Arera Colony or wherever, Kolar or modern Bhopal. These buildings are much more thermally comfortable than the modern architecture. Next. Then I would say this court, Iqbal Maidan and the surrounding buildings, is the signature area of Bhopal, because it gives you so many messages to the architects and planners, how to locate the built up mass with respect to airflows, how the built up mass has been designed. You have you have Shaukat Mahal, which has French. It was inhabited by the Bourbons. Then you have Sheesh Mahal, which has a lot of tinted glass work, and you have Moti Mahal. You are facing Moti Mahal right now, which is facing Moti Masjid, and it has a lot of character and showcases the architecture of that period. Next. These are archival images of Iqbal Maidan area. Yes. Of course, it had two huge kidney trees, out of which only one remains, and the conception of open maidans in those times was not just like that. They were full of fruit-bearing trees. They were not using non-fruit-bearing trees. The emphasis was always on fruit-bearing trees. So this is from Sheesh Mahal, a balcony from Sheesh Mahal. You can see the tinted glass work in Sheesh Mahal, and inside also you have a lot of mirror work and tinted glass work inside Sheesh Mahal, which is occupied by banks. Yes. This was before the VIP road came in, was constructed. This was the linkage of Gauhar Mahal with the lake. Now, the courtyards are an essential element of the architecture of Bhopal, and into these courtyards all the openings open. And these courtyards either had trees, or had fountains, or had a water pond, and all these trees were fruit bearing trees, either mango, or you have so many, even in Islamnagar you have a tree of aru. So you have so many interesting trees here which further cool down the spaces. So emphasis was to build thermally comfortable places. Yes. And then you have a reward of lot of terraces in the city, because terraces of course were used for kite flying, but there was another culture happening on the terraces which has been lost today. Yes. As I said, of course this is the wazoo tank of Moti Masjid, but then the insensitivity of planning will show that huge water tank there. You have nice water body, nice fountain, and then you see this huge water tank right there. So you see the delicate treatment of spaces here, and then the massive water tank there. If people were sensitive enough to architecture and the antecedents the city had, they would have designed the water tank properly or relocated it, which was not very difficult. But the idea is people don't respond to their architectural heritage. Next. Sadar Manzil, like I said, each courtyard either had trees or had fountains, and the Sadar Manzil also had a fountain, and the actual fountain is at the PHQ. It is transferred there, and the trees that you see here are later additions. In the historic city, people would never plant this tree which gives no fruits. Next. There were many temples also which are knitted into the urban fabric of the city. This is Shriji Haveli temple of Shri Krishna. It has a functioning well also, and there are many more temples which are knitted into the fabric. They were not having shikhars during the Nawabi period, but they were very nicely worked out temples with the priests living in that house. Bhopal, as someone said, is also known for its patiyas. So every house had this interactive space where people could sit and interact with the neighbor. Now in modern architecture there is no interaction space. You don't know who is your neighbor, or you just don't talk to the neighbor. This is a very beautiful house. It is a miniature of Sadar Manzil, where you have the courtyard, the fountain, the dalan, the chani, everything. It is almost a miniature of Sadar Manzil, but in a smaller scale. Next.
Where it is located?
In the Chowk. ये यूनानी शफा खाने के से पास में. Then you have all different type of house which is multi-story, and you have a central courtyard, and the lower floor have sliding folding doors. So when you open these doors, fold these doors, the entire space becomes one. So there was a lot of flexibility of spaces. There was no rigidity. Today in modern architecture, rooms ban gaye and there is so much of rigidity. Here, the things that we should learn is how to make spaces flexible, so you don't get bored of those spaces. Victoria School, which was the girls' school, which is still existing, but now it has been made co-ed school, and it was designed for girls, so you had a solid wall from outside and all the light was taken from skylights. Next. Tabamiya house was a huge palatial house not belonging to royal family but to a rich businessman, which is lying in ruins. Only half the portion is inhabited, but is a beautiful piece of architecture. Hafiz Manzil is a typical Muslim house which does not have a shop on the front. This is also in the chalk. It has an entrance, then a small vestibule, and which leads to the first floor, and it has a courtyard, and then all the elements as I have said already. Next. Hafiz Manzil has a projected dalan, which makes it different. The upper dalan is of Tabamiya house. This is Hafiz Manzil at the top, and the bottom is Sayyid Sajid Ali house, which is totally transformed now. Only Hafiz Manzil remains. Next we will just move. Bhopal also has lot of architecture which is having metal filigree work, very delicate work with metal and wood. Next. Then the architecture of 1960s, 70s. So if you make a timeline of architecture, it has representations of all architectural styles. This was when the patterns on the plaster was becoming very popular. Next. All these pattern making on the elevations. Next. Then we come to the architecture of 1930s, 1920s, which had this cast iron work and the stone masonry, because earlier it was brick masonry, wood and lime. Now it becomes stone masonry and cast iron work. Then all these are stone masonry, thicker walls, and lot of RCC being used, which may have different, which made people use the spaces and visualize the spaces in a much different manner. Next. Though the typology remains the same, the courtyard, the dalan, the chandni and the terrace. Next. Then we had a lot of sarais where people from outside would come and sell their goods. So this is a beautiful Sarai Jumeirati Bhavan, or in a much dilapidated condition, but it is having shops at the bottom, then and in the middle floor is the storage space, and the upper floor is a dormitory where beds are given, lockers are given, and traders would come and sell their goods there and rest for the night. Next. Then we have many houses where the freedom struggle took place. This is one of the house which was the focus of the freedom struggle, and this is a lady who would still अपना खुद का कॉटन से धागा बनाती थी, और जितनी साड़ी उनको चाहिए she would weave on her own, and this house had a lot of cottage industry type of activities also, where they were making paper mache idols and all that. They also had they would take out a children's magazine, and the number of the copies of magazines are still lying there. They are handmade children's magazine. Next. Then you have Sarai Jumeirati Sikandri, in front of which you have this famous Namkeen Chai Bhopal ki, and this is a bigger courtyard because here people were coming with their horse chariots, and they would place their horse vehicles here, park the horses in the central courtyard, and there were small cubicles on the sides where they would stay, and it is a very beautiful architecture, small cubicle with a little dome, and all the horses would stay in the courtyard protected, and they would sell their goods and go away. Then there are many temples, historical temples, which were on the banks of the lakes. This is quite an ancient temple, Shitla Mata Mandir. We have documented all the masjids. Within the Chowk only there are 36 masjids, as you said. Bhopal is also known for the number of masjids. So these are the, we have marked down the natural drainage flows, and the pink markings show how the natural drainage has been blocked into these lakes, and therefore the middle lake is suffering the most. Thanks. So this is from one newspaper. I got the actual image of the three cascading lakes, how it was before the building block came in between. Next. I'm just running through these images. Next. Then Bhopal was also known for its gardens. There were so many gardens. Noor Bagh is still there in the PHQ. You had Ash Bagh, you had Nishad Bagh, you had Hayat Bagh. You had so many gardens which were designed as proper gardens, which are in quite a bad shape. We will just run through the images. The Taj Mahal, it is still getting renovated. Tajul Masajid, which is the largest mosque in Asia. Next. Benazir, the inner hall of Benazir Palace, which also has this tinted glass work. Next. This is very important. This is the stepwell in Bada Bagh, which is lying in a very, very bad shape. It used to be used by the students from Safia College just after independence. They would go there and study because all the chambers would be so cool. This is a 3-story high stepwell, and Bhopal has many stepwells which are very beautiful. There is one is in Kazi camp also, which is almost falling down. It has been filled up by the people without telling anyone. So this stepwell particularly is so beautiful, and it has lot of water, and people are taking out water from, they have installed a pump here. They are using the water but not giving any attention to this stepwell.
Savita ji, is this a latest picture? How old is this?
This picture is latest. It gets up to 3 floors.
No, what I mean to say is this picture showing water etc. is recently taken, or is an old picture about 10 years old or something?
Yes, 10 years. 10 to 11 years.
Any idea about its status now?
It still gets filled up.
Thank
There
you.
is lot of water because all the surface water right from Idgah Hills, where Idgah is there, it is coming and feeding this. And the groundwater table is also very high. We have mapped the geological features also. So there is a lot of groundwater here, and which feeds the Ghora Nakas.
Okay, thank you.
So we have mapped the geological features which say there is a lot of groundwater. This is the same stepwell. Anyway, I will not talk. It is so many examples of buildings here. This was the place where Siddiq Hassan Khan was kept under house arrest by the British. Next. That's it. So, of course, I am not talking of modern architecture here, but the modern architecture, as you know, because all of you are aware of modern architecture of Bhopal, it has nothing, no sign, no takeaway from the architectural heritage we have, nor by way of comfort of spaces, livability of spaces, you cannot exist in the modern houses and buildings without switching on the daylight, without switching on the cooler, or without the AC. Whereas people in these houses, they laugh at the modern architecture because they are very comfortable. And I have come to believe that if you live in spaces which are comfortable, you have longer lifespan also. So in these houses, people were, there were many old people above 90 and they were very agile, none was bedridden and they were very healthy. So I always tell my students that the medical and the electrical bills are both lesser in these houses. Thank you very much.